are listening to The Michael Lodge Show. Wealth, business, and taxes. Oh yeah, and some politics. Let's get started.
When I leave home to walk to school, Dad always says to me, "Marco, keep your eyelids up and see what you can see." But when I tell him where I've been and what I think I've seen, he looks at me and sternly says, "Your eyesight's much too keen. Stop telling such outlandish tales. Stop turning minnows into whales." Now what can I say when I get home today? All the long way to school and all the way back, I've looked and I've looked and I've kept careful track. But all that I've noticed, except my own feet, was a horse and a wagon on Mulberry Street. That's nothing to tell of. That won't do, of course. Just a broken down wagon that's drawn by a horse. That can't be my story. That's only a start. I'll say that a zebra was pulling that cart, and that is a story that no one can beat when I say that I saw it on Mulberry Street. Yes, the zebra is fine, but I think it's a shame such a marvelous beast with a cart with no tame. So tame, I mean. The story would really be better to hear if the driver I saw there was a charioteer, a gold and blue chariot, something to meet, rumbling like thunder down Mulberry Street. No, it won't do at all. A zebra's too small. A reindeer is better. He's fast and he's fleet, and he'd look mighty smart on old Mulberry Street. Hold on a minute. There's something wrong. A reindeer hates the way it feels to pull a thing that runs on wheels. He'd be much happier instead if he could pull a fancy sled. A reindeer in a sleigh. Say, anyone could think of that. Jack or Fred or Joe or Nat, say even Jane could think of that. But it isn't too late to make one little change. A sleigh and an elephant. There's something strange. Say, that makes a story that no one can beat when I say that I saw it on Mulberry Street, but now I don't know. It still doesn't seem right. An elephant pulling a thing that's so light would whip it around in the air like a kite, but he'd look simply grand. With a great big brass band. A band that so good should have someone to hear it, but it's going so fast that it's hard to keep near it. I'll put on a trailer. I know they won't mind if a man sits and listens while hitched on behind, but now is it fair? Is it fair what I've done? I'll bet those wagons weigh more than a ton. That's really too heavy a load for one beast. I'll give him some helpers. He needs two, at least. But now what worries me is this. Mulberry Street runs into bliss. Unless there's something I can fix up, there'll be an awful traffic mix-up. It takes police to do the trick to guide them through where traffic's thick. It takes police to do the trick. They'll never crash now. They'll race at top speeds with Sergeant Mulvaney himself at the lead. The mayor is there, and he thinks it is grand, and he raises his hat as they dash by the stand. The mayor is there, and the aldermen too, all waving big banners in red, white, and blue. And that is a story that no one can beat. When I say that I saw it on Mulberry Street, with a roar of its motor, an airplane appears and dumps out confetti while everyone cheers, and that makes a story that's really too bad, not bad. And I still could be better. Suppose that I add a Chinaman who eats with sticks, a big magician doing tricks, a 10-foot beard that needs a comb. No time for more, I'm almost home. I swung around the corner and dashed through the gate. I ran up the steps and I felt simply great, for I had a story that no one could beat. And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. But Dad said quite calmly, just draw up a stool and tell me the sights on the way home from school. There was so much to tell, I just couldn't begin. Dad looked at me sharply and pulled on his chin. He frowned at me sternly. From there in his seat, was there nothing to look at? No people to greet? Did nothing excite you or make your heart beat? Nothing, I said, growing red as a beet, but a plain horse and wagon on Mulberry Street. Now, that is the Dr. Seuss book that was pulled by the estate of the writer. And the name of the book is And to Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street by Dr. Seuss. And that was pulled because of the word Chinaman. They thought it was too out of date. So they pulled it, even though it's a great story about a young kid who wanted to create a big story about what he saw on his way home from school on the street that he lived on, Mulberry Street. And it's a really cool story. But just one word canceled it out. And so the estate who holds the rights to Dr. Seuss pulled that one book. They pulled 3 books, but that was one of them. Because of one word, and that was the word Chinaman. You see, we're living in this culture where people are trying to cancel out parts of history. And I grew up in an age where we saw all of these things. There were movies out there that showed Chinese people. There were shows out there showing Chinese people. And it's just a part of history. And it happened back then. As the Chinese came over and they served as workers on the railroads here in this country, and then they expanded out and they became workers within mines, and then they expanded out into cities and grew cities and started businesses, and it's a great story. And it's an American story. But do we cancel out books? Do we cancel out historical thoughts or sayings or speech because they're part of our history? Gosh, when I'm talking now, I feel as though I should rhyme. Dr. Seuss gets that into you. And when you read his books, and I've read them ever since I was a kid, okay? And once you start reading his books, you want to rhyme. But we don't need to cancel out parts of history that actually happened and the expressions that we used. If that's the case, we would have wiped out the N-word a long time ago. But it's still here. It's still with us. Should it be? Maybe not. Is it used? Yeah, it's still used. And in fact, it's used within the black community. But we don't cancel things out. And that's what's happening with America at the moment, is that they are trying to cancel these things out, and they're trying to shut down speech. They're trying to shut down what people believe in, or what they think, or what they've read, or what they've seen. They are trying to, if what you think or what you believe in does not coincide with what other people believe in, then they want to cancel you out. They want to shut you down. They don't want to hear from you anymore. And listen, Americans should be very, very concerned about this. If they're able to cancel Dr. Seuss, they can cancel you. I just feel like I need to have a rhyme for that. If they cancel out Dr. Seuss, they can cancel out you, Mr. Booth. I don't know. I should probably not rhyme. It's probably not my thing. But you feel like you should, because you've just read Dr. Seuss. Oh, I just rhymed there, didn't I? It just flows out of our mouth and we don't know what to say. Oh my God, I'm doing it again. Listen, but we're talking about cancel culture, and America has become stupid. We really have become stupid. And we are trying to shut down people's views. We're trying to shut down history. We're trying to shut down what happened a long time ago. Listen, any child who reads that book is not going to become a racist, okay? He's just not. Because he's going to be more concerned about the elephant. He's going to be concerned more about the end of the story and what the little boy is going to tell his father. That is the whole thrust of the book. It's not about racism or anything else. And listen, you cannot call conservatives racist. You cannot call these people racist. I tell you, I had to end a friendship relationship the other day because we were talking about nationalities and he literally called me a racist. And we were not talking about racism. It was just because we were talking about nationalities and the different customs and the cultures and everything. And he called me a racist. And we were talking about nothing racist at all. I've had to cut out 2 very good friends because they wanted to use racism to support their political view. Now, nothing racist was being said, but they used the word racist just so they had an attack on my political views. And that's where we've come today, is that racism is no longer talking about racism. It's talking about political racism as an attack on other people who do not believe as you believe. So when there is real racism out there, and we need to talk about it, and we need to discuss it, and we need to do something about it, we can't do it because now everything is racist. If you are conservative, you are a racist. If you say that you support the American flag, you become a racist. If you say that you are for law and order, you become a racist. Now, none of those topics that I just mentioned has anything to do about being a racist. No one is going up to a black man and putting him down and making him feel inferior. Nothing is going to an Asian and making them feel inferior. But if we're talking about politics, and we're talking about policy, and we're talking about the law, and we're talking about protecting the law, we're talking about police officers, and we're talking about the Constitution, and if that other individual doesn't believe what you are saying or does not agree with you, or I don't agree with him, then I become a racist. And that is the problem of America today, is that it's no longer talking about real racism. The black man that I was just talking about, if something had happened to him and somebody was racist to him, I would be the first one up there protecting that guy. I would be the first one there to protect that man because he was being attacked by a racist. I would protect him. I would protect his ability to survive in this world because he's one of us. But if a real racist attacks him, then we stand up and we fight against racism. But unfortunately, politics has created this cancel out culture that words of how you believe then creates you to become a racist. And it's used as attack mode. And it's not used to really talk about real racism that happens. And this still happens. We have to admit it, that racism still happens. But it doesn't happen when you're talking about political views, or you're talking about the Bible, or you're talking about religion, or you're talking about other things that you feel deeply about that has nothing to do with racism. Nothing. Now, if I went up to that black man, or to that Asian, or to that Indian, or to whatever nationality he is, and if I called him a name, then that may be racism. That has to be addressed. Or if I put him down, or if I held him back from getting a job, that might be racism. So you see, we have the cancel out culture. We have this culture where we want to cancel everybody out because they do not believe how we believe. And unfortunately, you see, this country was formed based on the ability to have freedom, based on the ability to be able to say what we feel and what we believe. That's why in the Constitution, the freedom of speech was designed to protect us from that. Now, sometimes people are stupid and they say the wrong thing. It's amazing how some people can just spout things out without even thinking about what they're saying or how it's going to harm somebody else. But when we're talking about free thought, and we're talking about being able to speak on religion, being able to speak on politics, being able to speak on policy, that has nothing to do with racist beliefs. But we are attacked on that. You cannot even have a conversation on travel anymore and talk about different cultures without being called a racist. Now, when I and my family were talking, we were talking about the different cultures. We were talking about the Philippines and eating a balut egg. I don't know if you know what a balut egg, but a balut egg is a duck egg that is half born, that they cut the top off and they eat the duck's body because the little baby body is in there, in the juices and everything else. It's called balut. So we're talking about different cultures of what happens within these other nations. And I made the statement that I would never eat that. I just could not eat a half-dead baby duck. Where you're eating the beginning of the feathers and everything. I just could not do it. So he called me a racist. Because I would not eat a balut egg. Well, I tell you. I look at this and I wonder how we have evolved, because I'm beginning to wonder if we truly came from apes. I think we're evolving right back into apes because we are really dumb. Sometimes we do things that we just don't think about. I believe that the apes are a little bit smarter than us now. I really do. I think that we have we have gone backwards instead of forwards. In the last few years, instead of advancing and supporting everybody in this great world of ours, in this great country of ours, we've pulled back and we've begun to slam people for how they believe and think. We've gone backwards. Instead of in being happy with new thoughts and new ideas and new processes and moving forward and moving people up and making people greater than they have ever been in life before, now we are in the process of tearing people down. I don't believe that Dr. Seuss and To Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street should ever have been pulled, because it's a great story. A lot of books should never have been pulled. A lot of people should not have been censored. A lot of people should not have been dismantled and taken off of YouTube and Twitter and Facebook just because they had a different belief from the people who owns those companies. Censorship is a bad situation. If you remember, in Nazi Germany, they were pulling books off the shelves and burning them in the streets because those books did not believe in the Nazi belief. Jews were attacked by the Nazis. They were killed, they were murdered, because they did not believe the Nazi belief. And the Nazis did not like the Jews. We have the same culture now where certain individuals do not like other individuals and they're trying to cancel them out. They're trying to silence their voice just because they don't believe. They don't say the right things. So we have this situation where each and every single one of us as Americans or anyone in the world should be very furious about censorship. You should be knocking on their doors and saying, enough with this censorship. People can say what they believe as long as it's not hate that's going to do damage to other people, where they're going to kill other people. That kind of hate should never be anywhere. But when people have beliefs, they may have a different belief in God or in Buddha, or they may have a different belief in politics or in who should be in the White House. Every one of us has a different belief, and if you're going to start shutting us down just because you don't agree with how I believe, then we have nothing. There's no debate. And if you can't come to me and debate your position to me, then you are nothing. If you're trying to cancel out my voice for how I believe, then you are nothing. Now, I want to get to another topic, and that is name-calling from President Biden. I'm really beginning to wonder if he has the mental capacity to fulfill the role of president. You don't use words like Neanderthal to describe the opposition. Just because a different state governor decided to open up his state in full, the president calls him, or calls the people of Texas Neanderthal. You see, this all comes down to the word freedom. You see, the state of Texas gave their individuals, their citizens, the ability to make their own choices, the ability to make their choices in healthcare, the ability to have the freedom to move forward and make their own decisions on what they want to do. So President Biden calls Texans Neanderthals. And he has called Floridians names too. But calling these people names and putting them down just doesn't work. It's not working. Because what we're seeing is that if you compare California and how complete lockdown, complete supervised daily monitoring of individuals in the state of California has done nothing for the state of California. It's destroyed an economy. It's destroyed people's livelihoods. It's moved companies out of California. It's moved people out of California because it wasn't working what Governor Gavin Newsom was doing for the state of California, and it continues not to work to this day. But then if you look at the other states who have opened up, who have begun working, then their COVID numbers have gone down. They're working. The economy is great. The unemployment levels are down. So everything's moving forward for those states. And then for the President of the United States, who believes, and he said this to us at the very beginning, when he was running for president, that he was going to lock down the United States. He was going to enforce wearing a mask. It was all about his authority over American people. So people were going to lose their freedoms under Joe Biden, and people in a lot of these states were okay with that. When is it ever an instance in America where we lose our freedoms? Where we lose our voice? We should never ever stand for that. We should never have allowed them to shut down our churches. We should never have allowed them to shut down our businesses and our restaurants, and even the government offices should not be shut down. Let me tell you, when you call EDD in California to get some help, you can't get it because no one answers the phone. That is the biggest problem in doing anything in California at the moment, where I have clients who need to get some action out of the EDD, and we can't get it done because why? No one's there. No one's answering the phone. And when they say, leave your name and we'll get back to you, you leave it, no one ever calls back. So EDD, California, state of California, is nonsense at the moment for shutting down and continue to remain shut down. You should open up everything and let people get back to their jobs. And not only that, but listen, you have shut your state down, but yet you have a surplus in the billions because you're taxing everybody so much. So we have this cancel out culture that keeps coming up and it keeps getting attacked, and censorship still remains. Not Amazon, but YouTube is still censoring Donald Trump's videos, his channel that he had going. They canceled him out. All of us should, even though if you do not agree with an individual, but you see them being canceled out, that individual could be you. And it may be you. It may be me. At any point in time where they don't like what I'm saying, they could cancel me out. Am I worried about it? No, not really. I just come on. I do a podcast. It's distributed over 25 odd places. My voice will still be out there. I'm not worried about it. People try to cancel me out. Go ahead, try to cancel me out. There are other ways to get messages out there to the American people to say, come on, stop, smell the roses, and understand that all of us are subject to being canceled at any given moment. We are the next Dr. Seuss to be canceled out. Now listen, I know that a lot of you are maybe out there listening to me, and you're probably saying, I don't agree with this guy. That's okay. Because I might not agree with you either. But that doesn't mean I'm going to cancel you out. In fact, I want to hear your opinions. I want to hear it. I give you a text number every single day for you to text into me and tell me how you feel. None of you ever do. One or two. But if you have an argument or if you have a position that you want to tell me, I want to hear about it. I open that up to you. I give you an email address and I give you a text number. So you have every opportunity. Because if you don't believe in what I believe in, let's talk about it. I'm not going to call you any names. I never will. Now, you may call me names. So I would ask that you show me some support. Respect, I mean. Because I'm showing you respect. Listen, you guys. We as Americans should be very, very concerned about this cancel out culture. It's not good. Canceling out history, canceling out words, canceling out political views, canceling out opinions, canceling out everything else in life. Just because the other person doesn't believe or agree with what you believe in. That's not how America works. America works on debate. If you can't debate, shut up. Just don't say anything. If you can't debate your position without calling somebody else a name, just shut up. Because you do more harm to your point of view by calling other people names. Get it together. Censorship and canceling out just is not an American trait. It just isn't. And we, as Americans, have to do something about it. If you have any ideas, let me know, because I would really like to hear what your idea is in the freedom of debate, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of... We have so many freedoms. And once you begin canceling out one freedom, it's very difficult to get it back. So I would suggest that if you believe in freedom, start fighting against censorship and canceling out. Because at some point in time, it's going to come back and hit you. That's how it does. Karma is a bitch, but that's what happens. So if you really want to make a difference, start fighting back. Start fighting back against these individuals, against these companies, against these social media giants who are trying to cancel out other people's voice. Listen, I don't want to get depressed about this. I mean, this is Friday. My gosh, Friday is a day that we're thinking, great, tomorrow's Saturday and we have Sunday. I can sleep in on Saturday. I can get a nice cup of coffee and read a good book. I can go out and travel. Tomorrow I'm going to, on Saturday, I'm going to a car show. It's a international car show up in, I think it's called Cape Coral. I'm not sure. I have to put it on my navigator, but I'm going up there. I guess what they're doing is they're showing off vintage and also current new models of Maserati, Ferrari, BMW. I think it's called I forget what it's called. IBM? I forget what the name of the show is, but it has all of the foreign cars from vintage to brand new models. So I'm going up there. It's from 10 until 2, so it's not very long. So it's really being sponsored by the Maserati Car Club, and Ferrari Car Club, and all the other car clubs that are out there. But it should be fun. It's my first trip in a long time. It's going to take me 2 hours to drive over there. 2.5 hours, I think it takes to drive over there. I'm going to be driving out through the swamps of in the farmland of Florida, which I haven't seen. So I'm kind of excited because I'm doing something different. and I'm going to enjoy it. I was invited to go to this several weeks ago, so I'm going. I love cars. I remember when I lived in Los Angeles, every year they would shut down Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills, and they would bring in all of the old cars and some of the new ones also. And I could literally spend a whole day just walking from car to car and taking pictures and looking at them. You can never sit in them, which I wish I could have sat on some of those. And it was really a good experience, and it lasted 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday. And of course, if you know Beverly Hills, they do it up really grand and really nice, and it's really a cool place to go. But I've always enjoyed cars, and I've always looked for. I remember when I was a kid, my dad used to take me to the car show in Seattle, Washington, and it was always down at the Seattle Center at the Space Needle. And they had all the new cars, and I ran as a kid, and I sat in them, and I turned the steering wheel. It was the best place. So my dad instilled that in me, that to love cars, and so that's why I like going to car shows. It's really a cool thing. If I see a car show or a club pulled alongside the road, I'm there. I will pull off to the side of the road and I will go to that car show because I love seeing old vintage cars. When I was young, my dad was always trading something. So the first thing he traded was for an old Vega. Now, I don't know if you remember what a Vega is. It was an old Chevy Vega, and the right side panel was off, and it burnt more oil. It drank more oil than it did gasoline. Then he traded that for an upgrade. I think it was a 1960 Thunderbird. And I don't know what they did to this Thunderbird, but they had put this furry stuff all over the dashboard. It was all fur. And when you drove this boat, I mean, it drove like a boat. I mean, it was big, huge. When you went around corners, you literally felt like you were going in a boat around these corners. But it was a vintage. Now I look at that same car. If I would have kept that car, I could have made some bucks off of it because it's now become a vintage car. If only you knew back then as a kid, well, maybe I should keep this car because it might become valuable. Well, it did become valuable because now they're selling at auction for good sums. But so that's my plan for tomorrow. Tomorrow is a car show. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting out of the house and away from the dogs for a few hours. I need a break from them. So listen, if you want to send me any messages, comments, questions on business, send it to 818-252-5682. Again, that's 818-252-5682. Or send a email to info@lodge-co.com. I promise I will answer every single one. Even if you call me a name, I will still answer that. I promise you. If you like the content of my show, please go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Michael Lodge and help me out. I'd greatly appreciate it. But listen, I really want to instill this into you, okay? Because I think Dr. Seuss would want you to do the same thing. Go out there, fight back on cancel out culture and on censorship. It cannot be tolerated in America any longer. We've got to fight back. And it takes you, and it takes me. I'll talk with you soon. This podcast is produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content. Hi, this is Mike Lodge of The Michael Lodge Show. Join me on iHeartRadio and other podcast stations as we talk about wealth, business, and taxes. Oh, and some politics. Join me every day on the podcast that keeps focused on business.